Hey guys, it's BaileyWiki, and I'm going to show you something that I think you guys would really like. It's maybe something you've seen before, but it's a different way of doing it. So let's start by just let's create a little city scene here, and I'm going to drop in a warehouse. This is from the latest release. Let's line it up to the grid there. Okay, and I've got some players here, and let's walk into our warehouse. Just move them inside there. And let's walk around. So we're walking around, and you can see we've got these crates that are blocked. If you saw our 3D battle recently, you saw something that looks like this. But as I'm walking around, I'm now up on the crates, and then I'm down off the crates, and then I can like jump off, and I'm at the bottom level. And you've seen me do this before with a module called Elevated Vision, but it creates all these like issues and conflicts, especially if you've got other things like levels installed. So I've stopped using it. So I was like, how the heck do I do this just using levels? And there's actually a way to do it, and it's not really documented. So I'm going to show you how you can do this using levels. It's a little bit nuanced, but you can see as I'm walking around, levels handles all the line of sight. So I can't see this player here because I'm behind the boxes, but all of a sudden I can. And it just works really, really well. It's everything that you want levels to be doing, but it's automatic. Like you can even have it work staircases. And why is this interesting? Well, because if you're just using levels and the regions that levels uses, normally they're just like staircases. They just pop you up or they pop you down. But we want something that's a little bit smarter than that. We want something that lets us actually maneuver around terrain and make terrain different sizes, but we want to minimize the number of modules it takes for us to do that. And since we all love using levels by Ripper, that's the goal of today. So I'm going to show you how to do this. There's a couple of nuances. There's also some improvements that Ripper could make. So I guarantee Ripper's going to watch this video. He and I talk all the time. If you want Ripper to make some of these enhancements, stay tuned to the end and see my suggestions, and feel free to suggest them in the comments. And we'll see if we can convince Ripper that this is something worth doing. So anyway, really fun maps to be able to make this way. Of course, you can turn a whole entire map, with like actual organic terrain and cliffs and stuff using the same method. So let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial. Now, before we jump in really quick, I'm BaileyWiki. If you're new to my channel, we teach everyday GMs how to use technology and artwork to make truly memorable experiences for their players. We have a Patreon where all of the stuff that you see, like this warehouse, all the things, all these assets, you can actually get all those. You can get them for a single month of subscription, gets you literally our entire library. So if you want to check us out, go check out the Patreon that's linked in the description, and you can pick up some of these assets for yourself. Okay, so we're going to start by just grabbing this demo warehouse where I took all of the regions out, and we're going to rebuild them together. We're going to make sure that we have levels on, that we can see our levels. So you might have to establish what your levels are. And then we'll see we have no regions here, but we do have walls. Now the walls you're going to want to set up in whatever way that you want. You can see my configurations here. You can see there's actually no walls here. Just to show you what that looks like. But here we've got these top boxes go up to 9 feet. You can go up to 10 feet if you want to. The bottom boxes go up 5 feet. And then some of these do not restrict movement, and where some of them do, right? So for example, my players can walk up to this wall of boxes, but they have to make a check to get on top, in which case I, as the GM, will move them. But they can also alternatively come around here to the sides where they can jump on these 5-foot boxes, and then eventually on their own, because there's no movement blocking here, they can jump up onto these boxes as well. It's just a way for you as the GM to give them their own routes they can take if they don't want to make checks, or otherwise you can do checks for them. Again, they can pass through all these 5-foot walls, no problem, and then jump up on these. Back here, we're just not going to block vision. We're just going to set the walls at different heights. The reason you want to use walls is because levels can then use whatever like vision blocking that you want. It'll automatically calculate it, and that's why you saw the tokens get blocked. So here, players can't get through this wall, this invisible wall, unless they give them a check, but otherwise they can see through it, and there's not really any issues. They can move up the staircase as much as they like. Okay, so let's talk about what we need to do. Now, typically, what you would do is you would make little level staircases, and this button here, place regions as stairs, is what will do that. We're going to go ahead and keep that on, but we're going to modify these after we place them. So we'll go to our regions controls and we'll set up a new region. And let's call this region, let's call it sea level. And that's 2 words, sea level. And right now we're just going to leave it on its defaults and its behavior. It's good. What levels does automatically opens up that as this script. And when you go into the script and you read this little text down here, you can see it gives it this sort of this default API. And what this API does is it says just, hey, look at the level differences of this level and then make the player toggle back and forth. But where the secret is and where I found out what else you could do is following this wiki link. Okay, so you follow that wiki link, you go to Ripper's wiki, and you can find something interesting there. In the meantime, all that this level is going to do is just going to look at these level changes, and it's going to make players, automatically take on those levels. So let's go ahead and paint our whole region with this. Whoops, notice what I did. Let's get rid of that one. You have to have that selected. Once it's in orange, then you can actually draw your region. All right, so there's our region. And if we test it out with a player, drag our little player in here. So you see he toggles, open our door here. He toggles to 9 feet back to 0, but it's only when you step in the region, right? So that's not the behavior that we want. We want it to be just forcing our player to a certain elevation whenever they're standing on that region. So let's talk about how to do that. When I go to that wiki page, I find these different kind of stair options, elevators and things that you've seen. And then you find this one called custom logic macros. And if you grab this and you kind of read some of the instructions, we're going to pull that over to Foundry. So this is that same code, but without all of the comment tags in it. And the only thing we care about is this value right here, constant new elevation. We want to set this zone to always force us to level 0. Okay, so that's kind of step 1. So we're going to copy this. And we're going to go back into the config. We're going to go to the script. And down here, we're going to paste that. Constant new elevation is 0. Okay, and then we're going to hit save. I think I have a module that gives me the update region and save in case you guys don't see that. So now we've got sea level saved. So now if we walk into it, you see it doesn't affect anything. So let's change that region, or let's change the behavior so that just to show you how it works, we'll change it to 10. And let's walk out of it and walk back into it, and now we're at 10 feet. Watch this. We walk out and we're still at 10 feet, okay? That's because we're not walking into another region to change things. The other thing is there's a couple other issues. So let's keep building and I'll show you what we want to solve for next. Let's change this back to 0 so our sea level is working properly. Okay, so now let's build another region. This time we're going to have the region pop us up to level 5. Okay, so we'll worry about this here in a second. We'll just call this elevation 5. And our behaviors, we're going to come in here and we're going to paste that code from before. And this time we're going to set the elevation to 5. Now, and by the way, let's change the color of this. Oh, notice this is why I have that other thing here. Foundry core does not save this information properly as you move through the tabs. I hope they fix that in V13. So let's say elevation 5 here, and let's give it a different color just so it's super different. We'll call it, say it's blue. Okay, so now when we have elevation 5 selected, we can start to paint some new elevations here. So let's go ahead and use our polygon tool for right now. I'll show you why here in a second. We'll just go ahead and paint whatever our artwork tells us to paint, right? So we'll kind of do this, Certainly doesn't have to be exact. This is how you can really get these elevations to very specific, artwork. Let's paint some other elevation 5s around here. Let's do this one. Let's say that's at elevation 5. And let's do this little piece here. So really quick, this channel takes a ton of work to do what we do, to do these tutorials and show you guys all this cool stuff you can do with Foundry. If you like this, and you're not a Patreon, you don't want to support us that way, that's totally fine. I would love if you hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel so that you get alerts. All those things really help the channel a lot. Now let's get back to the tutorial. And let's also paint this at elevation 5. Let's do this. Oops. Remember, if you ever make a mistake, you can create a hole, go back to your drawing tool. Let's just make a square and it'll cut that off there for you. Let's turn the holes back off. Okay, so now we've got our elevation 5. So let's see what happens when we have our players step on it. Let's get our guy back to 0. So that's going to always put us at 0. So let's now step on our elevation 5. You see it pops us up. But then we jump off and we're not at the right elevation again, even though we should be, even though we're over the sea level, it's not at the right elevation. So let me show you how to fix that. What we're going to do really quick first is we're going to add our other elevations. So we'll add elevation 10. This time I'm going to save it. That module I mentioned, I'll have to find it later. I'll link to it in the comments, in the description, but it gives you the save button to kind of force that save. Our behaviors, again, will come in here. This time we're going to set our elevation to 10. And let's make sure that we give this its own color. Green sounds good to me. And we'll save it. Okay, so now let's draw in all of our elevation 10s. Go back to our polygon tool. Actually, I'll just show you. Let's use our square tool. Easy enough to draw that. All of that elevation 10. Same with that. Let's go ahead and make this whole area at 10 as well, including all these boxes. And we'll just give a little bit of that at elevation 10. Okay, there we go. All right, so you can see how our elevation is laid out. We could come fix more of the stuff later, but for right now, we're pretty good. Let's turn on our walls and just make sure that these kind of line up with what we want. Somebody needs to make a tool that lets you look at the walls while you're designing with regions. Okay, so this is feeling pretty good. All right, so now we see we still have the same problem. Once we get up to the top elevation, we can't go down further. So the real thing you have to fix here is you need to have all of these elevations be the same three-dimensional space. Let me show you what I mean by that. If our tallest level is 10, I want to go down to my sea level, and I want to say within this three-dimensional volume of 0 to 10, I want this level to be activatable, okay? I'm going to do the same thing here. In this three-dimensional volume, even though I only want the elevation to go to 5, which I have set as my behavior, I want the three-dimensional area to be anything within this volume, right? And then we'll do the last thing here. All right, so now all of our levels have the same three-dimensional volume. So let me show you what happens here. So see how we still have a problem? We're still like walking up and it's kind of working, but then it's kind of not. So the way that you fix that, because what's happening, I believe what's happening is that there's not error handling with levels with these regions, and it's looking at multiple regions that are overlapping each other, and it's getting confused. So what we want to do is we want to make cutouts for all of our other regions. And this is an area where I think if he's interested, Ripper could really enhance this. So let's go to our elevation 5, or sorry, let's go to our sea level and let's make our cutouts. This time we're going to use this create holes tool, okay? And we're just going to create holes anywhere we see a conflict. Got a little piece here. Let's do it that way. So you see I'm just carving holes out of this orange patch, right? The sea level. That way I'm just getting rid of all the conflicts. We're going to cut this whole area out here as well. Okay, so we've got all of our holes cut out. Now you can test it from here. You might need to make some more holes. I'll show you that in a second. Let's grab our player. Okay, now when we step off, we actually go back to sea level like we should. Here's 10 feet. Step off, we go back to sea level. So it seems like if there's only two regions, it can error handle properly if there's two regions overlapped. If there's more than two regions, it gets confused, okay? But if it was still confused based on what we're doing, we would still want to create more holes. In this case, you would go back to your regions and you'd want to cut out this overlap here, right? So you'd come select the region you want to remove. In this case, we want to cut things out of the blue region. Oh, well, you see, I think the reason there weren't any conflicts is I drew all the blue regions separately. So yeah, you may still have to create holes in that other region. Let's just test it. Let's add more to this blue region, and let's have our player climb on top of here. So they're at 10 feet, and you can see they're still at 10 feet, which is not what we want. So yeah, anytime you have a overlap, you're going to want to create a hole. So let's go back to our regions. We'll come back to our blue region, which is what we want to cut out. Turn on the cutout option, and we'll cut out that green region there. Okay, so that's really it, right? So it's making sure you don't have any conflicts, you don't have any regions overlapping, making sure that you're using that special behavior code, right? That um, sets everything to any token that enters it to a specific height. And you're also making sure that all of your regions are in the same three-dimensional space. Just some other things that you might want to be thinking about. You notice that I did not correct this where Levels is currently not managing my lighting. Let me turn the lights down to illustrate this a little bit better. So I've got all these lights in the scene. Let's turn some of these on. And those lights are visible no matter what height I'm at. Watch what happens when I have Levels handle the lighting though. It still works for my players, but when I'm managing the scene as a GM, I can't actually see all of my lighting at each level. So you may want to turn that off. If you're curious how you turn that off, you can click this, and now you can see your lighting properly. So just think about that. If you are using this method, you may want to be considerate of your lighting. Maybe Ripper has some advice for us that you can leave in the comments as well. Another thing to think about is if your players are flying, this is going to affect them, right? So at 20 feet, there's not really any walls. They're not in the three-dimensional space of those regions, so they won't get sucked back down to ground. But let's say these players are at 5 feet, right? So let's say they're flying at 5 feet, which is kind of a ridiculous concept, but if they are, they're going to be popped up, and they also won't. Just the behavior will be different. So if they're flying, unless there's something that Ripper can do to change them. See, I'm pretty much staying at 5 feet here, but as soon as I kind of engage my levels, I'm back again. So flying might be a little bit different. You might have to adjust your players as the GM. So what do you guys think of this? Do you want this to be sort of a standard function of Levels? I really like it. And I think that it could be a lot easier making maps if a couple things were introduced here. The first one is if Ripper can make this kind of idea of a fixed elevation staircase, sort of a standard feature, right? So if I go to behaviors If this code here is not something I have to go find every time, but if it's something that I can just like select from an option, that seems really great. That would make this really fast. And then the second thing is the error handling. Like make it so I don't have to create cutouts, right? So the idea would be hey, if there's a conflict and I've got three regions stacked on top of each other, just default me to the highest region, right? Then I don't necessarily have to create the cutouts. And then it becomes really easy. Then I can just like draw my regions, draw all my 5-foot levels. I can even have them like overlap. I can draw all my 10-foot levels and it just sort of works, right? So that's what I'd like to see. You guys let me and Ripper know in the comments if you agree with that or if you have other ideas how to make this work. But, this is great. So, this warehouse, it's part of my latest release, the one that just came out today. And it's awesome to be able to design these kind of tactically interesting and automated assets with, here's all the regions just built into a prefab, right? So now I can drop this warehouse in any map and I have the benefit of, setting this up once and it's always kind of done. Okay, so that's it. If you guys like this, feel free to give this video a like, throw a comment in the bottom, start a conversation. These are all things that help the channel. If you'd like to see more of these, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And as always, thanks everybody for supporting us, for everything that we do, everyone on our Patreon. We hope you love the release that came out today with all this stuff and a bunch of other goodies. And with that, I hope you all have fun making your maps.